All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you everyone for attending today's session. So it does feel like it has been some time since we last met, even though it's just like 2 weeks ago, but it does feel like it's been some. All right. So good evening, everybody. I hope you are well fed and you're ready to receive another round of uh, new knowledge today. Okay. So today we're going to touch on, I think it'll be quite an interesting topic. All right. So give me a moment as I share my screen. Okay, so as I was just thinking about the topic for today, right, is about metabolism, right? So based on my interaction with people and with how conversations flow in this area of metabolism, I find people uh, to feel very frustrated about this. Okay, because when it comes to weight loss, right, uh, either you control your intake, okay, you control your food intake or you do exercise, correct? So when it comes to increasing metabolism, even being in this field for such a long time, I feel that there really isn't a very good answer, okay, that can really give people a helpful knowledge to really solve this problem. Okay, because the kind of tips, and even if you do find online, people just say, oh, you increase your metabolism by what? By exercising. All right, if you exercise more means you burn more, right? That's one thing. And second thing, maybe you can eat some odd food, or increase your caffeine intake or certain ingredients that can stimulate your metabolic rate. That's it. And I find that this advice is just not helpful enough because many people, despite doing this, are still not seeing progress in their weight loss. And not just only weight loss, but to have a good body composition for health reasons as well. And this is the reason why it propelled me to, okay, perhaps search a bit more about this topic and how we can give a better answer for people, right? What do they mean by increasing metabolism? In what way we can increase our metabolism, all right? And how can we do this better in a way so I don't get discouraged? Even if I do exercise, it's not giving me any results, right? Okay, so today we will explore more about metabolism and how does this translate to um, our healthy living. Okay, now let me share you a few things, okay, which I find is quite interesting. All right, so many times we know how much a donut is, right? It's pretty high calories. Okay, it's 200 calories. But it never come across our mind how much it takes to really burn it. So if we were to look into the area of exercise, it takes about a 7 km cycle. Okay, you have to cycle 7 km in order to burn 200 calories. So you tell me, if you talk about burning more calories, if you just rely on exercise alone, isn't it frustrating? Okay, you eat one donut, you have to cycle 7 km. So if you eat two donuts, I have to cycle 14 km, right? And one fried rice is 500 calories. So this is equivalent to about 12 km run. It's about there lah. Okay, a bit more than, no, it's a bit less than double of the cycling, but it's still quite substantial. Okay, 12 km run. You need to run for 2 hours at least. Okay, and we always eat fried chicken. Okay, and we know we don't settle with just one fried chicken, right? We eat at least two fried chicken. So this is easily 600 calories. So 600 calories is 600 burpees. Okay, and just so you know, one burpee is you complete one cycle. Okay, if you do this one cycle, it's only one burpee. And you know how tiring is burpee, right? If you do 10 session or 20 session, it's enough to make a sweat already. So this is where I feel that it gets very frustrating. All right. And people find it like, what in the world? So how am I supposed to do this? Okay. You're asking me to lose weight. I cannot even eat a single fried chicken. And not eating two chicken, I have to do I have to do like 600 burpees. Don't make sense, right? Okay, and this is precisely the problem. And I really don't think that people are giving good enough advice or good enough practical tips to help people and to empower them to feel motivated to achieve their goals. All right. So this is where I think a good education is really important to show us exactly how our body uses the calories. Okay, so let me show you this interesting illustration. All right. So 60 to 70% of the total amount of calories that we burn is to use to sustain our survival. So things like breathing, heartbeat, or when you're sitting at rest. So this is 60 to 70%. If you breathe, okay, there's also one kind of way that your body actually has to use energy to sustain that function of yours. All right. And the other 15 to 30% is actually your non-exercise activity. Okay. So this includes like your walking, your climbing stairs, and even fidgeting. Okay. This is not really a very good kind of habit lah. You know, people will tend to say that, hey, why are you shivering? Okay, not to say that I'm encouraging you all to shiver right now or to fidget, okay, but that as long as you have some movement, you're actually doing a non-exercise activity, right? So this is when your step count or they come into the picture where it contributes to a good 15 to 30%. And thermic effect of food is basically the energy that's required for your body to digest that food. So that is also a kind of metabolic rate, okay, it's 10 to 15%. And this is where exercise come in. Okay, so exercise is only 5 to 15% of the total calorie that your body burns to sustain itself. Okay, so it's only 5 to 15%. So it's any structured workout like running in the gym and all that. So you see just now, right? If you eat that donut, you have to cycle 7 km. That's how much it takes for you to actually burn that. Okay, that's because it's such a small percentage if you look at it in total. So this is where I feel that people should be educated in a sense to not just only focus on the exercise, because in reality, there is a big portion here that is a good 95% actually belongs to this category. And a lot of it is to sustain you. Okay, 60 to 70%, right? Of course, if you do exercise, like you do a lot of muscle resistance related workout, you can increase your basal metabolic rate here. So you can go up to 70%. So even though you're at rest, you're breathing, you can be expending more energy. All right, but there are certain things I feel that people miss, like non-exercise activity. Okay, so this is where your step count actually take into account. So this is why people say you should walk at least, okay, 10,000 steps is a lot. So if you can go for 5,000 steps a day, okay, this is actually quite a lot, you know. So if you can increase up to a 30%, it's a lot actually. All right, you're contributing to increased metabolism in your body really by just doing some of these things, like gardening, you know, looking to the grocery store. And this is also another thing that people miss, which is thermic effect of food. Some food, when you eat, your body actually burn calories rather than storing calories. And you actually burn calories to digest that food. All right, so we should be putting more emphasis on these three areas rather than only here. Okay, and this is where we totally shift the attention. And once we have the right focus, we know exactly what to do. Okay, this is where we can really feel a difference in our metabolism. Okay, this is a more accurate way to boost your metabolic rate, not just exercising. All right. So of course, those are areas that we should focus on more, which is a good 95%. All right, but I want to mention a few things that will disrupt our metabolism. So these are things that we actually interfere with our metabolism. All right. So just to tell you briefly, okay, it's not really the focus for today, but I thought it's good to just share with you. So number one is toxins, okay, hormones and inflammation. So these are things that happen to us all the time, but we don't realize how we actually make our already low metabolism to be even worse. So we accumulate toxins everywhere, all right? And actually, there's a lot of studies. I've done a lot of research on this, but I feel it's more appropriate for me to do this in another session so that you will know, okay? There are like, you know, studies like 10,000 studies of sample size where people actually have increased insulin resistance when they find more plastic in their body, for example. Okay, so there are a lot of studies like this that shows how it is starting to affect our ability to process sugar and insulin already. So once you have more insulin, it will disrupt our hormones. Okay, our hormones will be either too much or too little, or it will change the structure of our hormone. So this is where there's a lot of you could store our metabolism as well. So once our hormones are disrupted, this is where it leads to inflammation. So inflammation is where the danger is, okay, where it starts to flare disease and such things like that. So all these things will interfere the way our body will to utilize calories, and it will slow down, sure, because our body will spend a lot of time needing to deal with all these things. Okay, so this is actually a cycle. All right, once you accumulate toxins, there'll be more hormones that disrupt. Okay, they'll be disrupted and it leads to more inflammation. So this is why actually the whole area of clear start and cleansing is actually very important. Okay, and why we encourage everybody before you start, you build any kind of supplement program to be on, detox program. So at least you can stop. Okay, you can cut down the toxin accumulation here. And once you can cut this thing, you can disrupt the whole cycle. So it stops here and it does not disrupt your hormone and leads to inflammation. So this is where we can just settle things at the root cause, because it is actually a very big factor that will disrupt our metabolism. All right. So I'm not going to spend too long talking about this, but I will talk more about this part, which is hormones, okay? Which is what we want to tackle more today. So now when it comes to weight gain or stalling metabolism in that sense, one of the most influential hormone is insulin. Okay, I think it's not really a surprise to everyone, but insulin is still a very authoritative hormone in this area. Okay, it's the number one hormone that's most influential in fat gain, and it will immediately stop our bodies from burning fat. Okay, so it will immediately stop everything that is supposed to increase our metabolic rate. So insulin is this one thing that we should do our very best to tackle this. Okay, so what is the best way to manage insulin? I think a lot of solution out there is very external basis, right? You have to eat less. You have to do a lot of things to control your environment. But it doesn't really solve the internal problem. You know, sometimes even despite our best effort of eating less, I eat very little already. I really try to eat healthier, this and that, but you find it to just not solve the problem. All right. So we are not really tackling problems at the root cause. So there must be a more effective way that we can manage this insulin better. All right. So this is where this new hormone came about. Okay, which I think you are also aware, which is GLP-1. Okay, weight loss jabs are linked to cancer. Okay, lower cancer risk. Okay, now it's not just about managing sugar and diabetes really. They are even talking about how it links to lowering cancer. Okay, they are even going to this area. They talk about how, okay, 10 out of 13 cancers associated with obesity, okay, can be better if you have GLP-1. This is just their theory lah, but they're now linking it to it can help to reduce cancer risk. All right, and how it is also being the biggest sales in pharma industry. All right, and this is where GLP-1 comes into the picture to really help people to mitigate their insulin problem. Okay, but of course about cancer, that one we cannot say is too soon. All right, but people are trying to, link to all these things to encourage people to take more GLP-1. All right, so GLP-1 is the secret key against the biggest metabolic problem, which is insulin resistance. Okay, I think everybody should know about the bizarre stories that you hear from GLP-1, how people can lose weight effectively, they can solve their diabetes issue just because of more of this GLP-1. So rather than controlling external factors, okay, I think it is better and it's more effective if we can enable our body to be more adaptable and efficient to cope with the insulin that's in our body. Right? It's a smarter way. And it's also the more effective way, okay, rather than always just focusing on external factors that don't really seem to solve the problem. Okay, so in summary, this is a nutshell, okay? If you're wondering how GLP-1 works, okay, basically it works like this. All right, so this is our blood sugar post-meal. Okay, this is our sugar, this is our insulin in our body. So 2 hours later, of course, the sugar molecules will drop and insulin will decrease, but if you don't have GLP-1, it will still stay in your bloodstream. But if you have GLP-1, okay, this whole process of clearance is a lot faster. Your body will have a lot less sugar and a lot less insulin if you have GLP-1. So this is why, it's encouraged for our bodies to produce its own GLP-1 so that we're able to clear off the excess sugar and insulin a lot faster. Right? So this is where we are going into how GLP-1 can help us. So I want to share with you this interesting picture. Okay, this is a picture of our fat cell. All right, we have two kinds of fat cell. There's one called the white fat, and there's actually one called the brown fat. So white fat is the one that most of us have, and the unwanted fats. Okay, this is what makes us have the spare tire, and even our underarms, right, makes it very wobbly. So you look at the composition of this white fat. It is 90% this lipid droplet. Okay, and this mitochondria is actually the important one. It's like the battery of a cell. So it has very little energy source here, and it's basically like a stationary cell that's sitting in your stomach. But you look at this brown fat, right? It's very different from white fat, So brown fat is a very special kind of fat that adults don't really have a lot of it. Okay, it's mostly found in children. So brown fat, if you see, right, there's a lot less of this lipid droplet, okay, very much less, and it has a lot of mitochondria. So what does that mean? It means that it has a lot more energy, okay? And if we have this brown fat, and this brown fat is brown because it has a lot of iron stores in it, so it's darker than white fat, and it's able to burn energy actually. All right, so this is a very different classified fat. It's supposed to make us warm, that increases our metabolic rate. All right, so those people who tend to have more warming effect, it could be a sign that they could also have more brown fat than those who are, who don't have so much, okay, in a healthy way. All right, so the function of white fat is basically it stores excess energy. The more white fat you have, it slows down your metabolic rate. It makes sense, right? The more of this unhealthy fat you have, and you have a higher chance of weight gain. So the more brown fat you have, you burn more energy. This is the fat that you want. All right. This is the fat that will make you thinner actually. Okay. So it burns energy, it creates heat, and it increases metabolic rate, and it burns more calories at rest. So this is where you can actually and really increase your basal metabolic rate. And it's usually found in babies now, okay? It's more for biological reasons, okay, because they tend to get cold easily. So children tend to have more. Then it will decrease significantly as we grow older. Okay, so this is how it looks like. White fat is typically white fat here. It's like a huge balloon. But for brown fat, it's a lot more smaller. It is 15 times smaller than this. Okay, so yeah, it's a lot smaller and it's also a lot darker as well. So the size is also a lot more different in this sense. Okay, so what does this translate to our topic today? So GLP-1 is able to, right, before we go into it, let's look at this first. Scientists found that people who have obesity produce approximately twice as many new fat cells annually as lean people. So people who are overweight tend to have a much bigger problem to deal with, okay, because their fat cells keep multiplying twice as fast, compared to those who are thin. So those who are overweight will forever be overweight based on this sentence because their body will just keep producing a lot of fat cells. So this is the reason why many people cannot seem to reduce fat percentage. Okay, they cannot lower down the fat no matter what they do. Okay, especially for those who are really on overweight problem. So GLP-1 has a very unique feature. Okay, and it is exactly what many people need in order to reduce their fat percentage problem. Because GLP-1, right, it is able to clear out a lot of sugar and insulin very fast in our body. So it produces a kind of environment. It creates a kind of environment that encourage our body to actually burn more calories. It will influence the structure of our cell because GLP-1 is actually a kind of hormone. So it will talk to the cell around them and will start to influence how the cell should function in the body. Okay? So it will in fact influence our white fat to become brown fat. So this is the first time, and this is the first ever supplement or technology that I heard can actually change your white fat into brown fat. Because science have always taught that you only have white fat or brown fat. That's it. Okay? It's unheard of for white fat to suddenly become brown fat. It's unheard of. Either your white fat becomes smaller, that's it. So GLP-1, it is able to do such a breakthrough change that your fat can actually change to a fat that burns calories for you. So indirectly, you have more of this brown fat that will burn calories rather than storing calories in your body. Okay, it can even activate pathways that encourage the expression of genes associated with brown fats characteristics. So it can even increase the genetic expression. So your body will then have the genes to produce more of this brown fat in your body. And it changes our fat from becoming a stationary fat that harms us to a fat that can actually protect our well-being. So I find this to be, wow, great. Okay, it's such an important, quite a revolutionary kind of change to our body. That not only it increases how it burns, okay, but it changes the fat, So our fat can become, fat cells that burn calories rather than storing. Okay, so this is the first ever nutrition or, technology that can actually do such a change. Okay, so here's what GLP-1 drug makers don't want you to know. Okay, so this is the reason why GLP-1 it has a reason why it's blowing up, because there are a lot of new discoveries about how it's really benefiting human health. Okay, a lot of these drug makers want you to know that they are actually natural food sources that increase our body own GLP level for a much, much cheaper of the cost. Okay, so just so you know, one GLP-1 jab for Sing dollar is 800 Sing. Okay, and you need 4 jabs for 1 month. So it's 3,002 a month. Okay, and comparing to, for example, taking Figate is only like 199 Sing dollar. Okay, it is a huge proportion, okay, between taking a natural food substance with, drugs. So of course, pharma want to encourage people to take, okay, in fact, it is pushing doctors to recommend as much GLP-1 to people who have diabetes problem. All right, they're actually pushing people, and GLP-1 is out of stock, by the way. Okay, so we know how it is trying to cycle people into buying more of that drug rather than exploring natural food sources that can increase our body own GLP-1 level. Okay, so because GLP-1 is a very new discovery, so there isn't a lot of natural food that can increase GLP-1, but there are some that has the strongest. So I choose the strongest one. So, based on studies, okay, they say it's some specific soluble fibers, and good news is liver mate is also part of that list of top natural products that can induce the highest GLP-1 levels in our body. Okay, so there is soluble fiber and liver mate. All right. So this is where Unicity comes into the picture, and I think it is really a great coincidence that it ties in so nicely with the whole GLP-1. All right, and I think that we are really very well positioned in this area. All right, so many organs in the body actually produces hormone. Okay, not just only the pancreas, for example. Actually, our heart produces hormone. All right, it actually produces hormone to encourage our blood vessel to dilate or to contract according to our physical state. Okay, it also influences our kidneys, okay, either to filter more or to retain more water, depending on our health situation. And of course, our liver also produces hormone. Glucagon, for example, is produced from the liver. So that doesn't come with surprise that our intestine also produces hormone. Right? It's not just only digestion and that's it. It also produces a house of hormones that's very important, particularly metabolic health, okay, because it's the central hub for producing GLP-1. Okay, so GLP-1 is produced in the gut. Now, so there's a very specialized kind of cell in our body called the L cell that's in our intestine that produces GLP-1. Okay, this very specific cell. So you can only activate this L cell to produce it when there is some ingredient. Not all kinds of food will activate L cell. So soluble fibers is one of those nutrients that will activate it to produce even more in our bodies. So one of the best way to increase natural GLP-1 production is soluble fibers. But not all soluble fibers. Some of them, they don't get fermented in the body. So we need to have a very specific time that after it undergoes fermentation, only it will produce the GLP-1 in our body. Okay? It is the best natural food in reducing insulin and sugar levels, and it can also increase our metabolism. Very interesting. How soluble fibers can actually get our gut to produce those beneficial bacteria that can actually in turn increase our metabolic rate. So I think this is a very good and beneficial point for us. Okay, so it has to be a specific kind of soluble fiber. It has to be of a certain class, like guar gums or inulin, for example. Okay, and some specific other soluble fibers, they may not get fermented. All right, so it has to be fermented so that you can produce this thing called short chain fatty acid. Right, so this is the main thing, okay, that is going to produce GLP-1. So if the fiber that we take does not produce this, okay, if it goes into our gut like this only, it won't produce GLP-1. Okay, so we need to have the correct kind of fiber that will produce this so that you're going to get the GLP-1. All right, and also it's very sensitive, okay, it's very time sensitive. GLP-1 will decrease very sharply if we don't consistently take soluble fiber. So once we don't eat our BLS for 1 to 2 hours, for example, then our GLP-1 levels in our blood will drop very drastically already. So that's why it's encouraged that you still take your BLS at least 2 times a day. with food or without food, really because we want to maintain the GLP-1 level consistently. So because we have the specific kind of fiber in GLS, okay, 6 times. So basically those that can ferment like gum, inulin, okay, or citrus pectin, these are those that will gel, okay, fibers that will be viscous and will gel up, fibers that will ferment in our body. So for us, we use 6 different types, okay, that we have very specifically studied and selected. These are the few that will maximize the benefit of fermentation in our body. So we have Unicity, okay, with this technology, 7X or BioCardio's matrix to protect our heart, okay, targeted for sugar, insulin, and cholesterol level. And we have a really good nutritional profile, okay. Our many fibers when you see out there is sugar is the first ingredient, all right, and fiber is most likely the least in the bottom. Okay, it's very watery. But for Biostime S, fibers is the first thing that you see in our ingredient list, all right? And it has a very healthy profile that does not spike your insulin at all. All right, and this is one of the best fibers that you can take to increase and to stimulate your gut to produce even more GLP-1. All right, so this one is not just reducing your sugar and insulin, it also encourages your L cell to produce more GLP-1. All right, so this is blood sugar levels without Biostime S, and this is how it looks like after taking it. Okay, so it has a very significant effect to lower your sugar and insulin levels after taking Biostime S. Okay, so next I want to just quickly talk about yerba mate. All right, this is another food that's really good in stimulating. So not just only that, for uni mate, we have real results to prove that it really does increase our GLP-1 levels. Okay, so this is a study with control and uni mate. So control just take plain water, uni mate, we take uni mate. So post taking uni mate, we can see a close to a double increase of GLP-1 levels, compared if you just drink water. Okay, so this speaks a lot really, okay, about how much it increases our natural GLP-1 levels. Right, so this is an illustration. So this is if you drink water, for example, you only have 2. If you take yerba mate, you will have double the amount of GLP-1 in your body. All right. So if you can tolerate the caffeinated effects of GLP-1, of yerba mate, you can actually take 2 sachets because that means you're going to have even more GLP-1 in your body. All right. The more GLP-1, the more effective it will be into increasing your metabolic rate, clearing sugar, insulin, and all that other benefits. Okay. So just want to talk briefly about how it increases our metabolic rate. So uni mate also works directly on the battery of our cell, okay, which is this thing that we saw in our fat cell just now, right? This mitochondria. So this uni mate is able to activate this CAT1 action here. So it's able to activate this thing and encourage more fat burning in our cell. So once it activates this CAT1, it's able to burn up to 24% more fat comparing to not taking collagen acid. Okay, so this thing that is in uni mate has a very powerful effect into encouraging fat burning and also increasing our metabolic rate. Okay, so with this, it is able to activate our fat burning and reduce our sugar and insulin levels. All right. Okay, that's okay. This is also another benefit about how feel great together they can help to protect our liver, right? And this is great studies, not just only protecting our insulin, but also produces glutathione that protect our liver from any damage. Okay, so last but not least, just now we spoke about the different areas that we can do to increase our metabolic rate. So one of them is food, right? So there are some specific food that will increase our body's metabolic rate. So one of those things is protein. Okay. So protein uses more energy for our body to digest, absorb, and metabolize. So it is also the most filling macronutrient, and 10 grams of protein will make you feel fuller more than fat or carbohydrates. So you are less likely to, to feel hungry, to sabotage your goals if you have enough protein. Okay, so protein is actually one of those things if you can take, you're already winning half the battle. All right. So protein, okay, burns the most calories out of the other macronutrients. So protein, if you take, you increase up to 30%. Okay, you want to maximize that as much as possible, followed by 5 to 10% of carbs and 0 to 3% with fat. Okay, so taking this, imagine you just sit down, you're already burning more calories, 30% more compared to someone who's only taking fat or carbohydrate. Right? So taking this is already a hack, okay, for you to increase your metabolic rate. Okay, so this is just a mention for those who are thinking about incorporating this into their daily regime. So 16-8 eating pattern is great, but not for everybody so soon. Some people, they need some time to go into 16-hour fast. So they may need to go with a 12-hour fast. And anyway, it's not really recommended to use for a long term. Right. So because of this reason, we encourage you to take this during the breakfast if you are taking, if you need to be on breakfast. Some people may have gastric issues, they can't tolerate, or they just can't tolerate a long fast. So this is where protein plays in very nicely in the breakfast. Or if you are on 16 hour, you can take this during break time. So anytime after food, okay, just to replenish your muscle cells, okay, because sometimes during fasting you can also lose muscle. Yeah, when you're on 16-hour fast, we can also lose muscle as well. So it's really important that you make sure you don't lose it. We have a clean source of protein to keep us on track in this regard. All right. So most of the time we don't have enough clean source of protein. It's mostly all high carbohydrate and all this food. So it's really not giving us the protein that we need. So comparing us with other major players, okay, I want to emphasize this again. We are really one of the best. Okay, just in case you are on the fence, I'm very worried about eating protein. This protein, is it good for our body? Is it high in sugar? So this graph will actually answer all your questions if you're worried about whether it's healthy or not. Okay, because we are comparing amongst these are major brands, okay, A, U, and N. These are very, very popular direct selling brands. So we are actually the best, okay, in terms of nutrition composition, protein, we are the most, okay, it may not be the most middle range, but our carbohydrate and our sugar level is the healthiest. Okay, it doesn't matter how high protein you have, but if your carbs and your sugar is so high, right, it's useless. Okay, you're basically drinking sugar. Okay, so these other brands, you think you can get fat in them because you're only taking sugar inside. And the fiber is so little. Okay, it's only 5. So ours is really good quality. We put in the good stuff. Right. So this is where sometimes you hear of weight loss plan uh going south, really work. Some people gain weight. So really because of the nutrition competition. All right. So with this, we are very confident to put it out there that we are one of the best. So if you're thinking about trying, you're highly encouraged to, and you can go in with confidence. All right. Don't have to think too much about it. Okay. Ah, so this is where two products and one practice play a very significant role to bridge the gap. Where many people are struggling to manage and to increase their metabolic rate when they get very frustrated. I think we are really one of the best solutions out there that has the least restriction, and we have the latest update in terms of science. Okay, we are one of the forefront in talking about GLP-1, and we just now have a really cool discovery about how not just only it changes our body, but it helps to change even our fat cell to burn, to become brown fat for us. So this is really a next level kind of science. And if people can be on board of it, they will really be able to experience the effect for themselves. So in conclusion, what have we learned? All right. So we learned that it's really important to increase the metabolism. But don't just focus on the 5% and be discouraged. Okay, this is where many people, they get the wrong idea and they think exercise is the only way for them to increase their metabolism. But please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you don't exercise. Okay, exercise is actually great. And it can actually increase your metabolic rate, but it's not the only area. Okay, and if you just only focus on that, you may be neglecting other areas that can also collectively increase your metabolic rate as well. Okay, so please don't get me wrong. Focus on the 95%. Eat smart and focus on nutrients that can boost the majority of the metabolic rate. Okay, so by doing and achieving that, you can see even bigger and better results for your own body. And it's really important to boost your natural GLP-1. Okay, this is the next best thing to increase your metabolism, which is to increase your brown fat. Okay, if you can do this, you're already winning half of the battle already. Okay, and you don't have to go for drugs. Okay, we don't have to go for jabs. Really, thank God. Okay, we have something so much better, and natural way is the food to go. Okay, and our products are really clean. We just use natural plant sources to give us a kind of benefit, a non-sustainable GLP-1 levels. Okay, a highly concentrated specific formula in few grade designed to increase your natural GLP-1 level. This is where we want to arrive at. Okay, that you don't have to do anything invasive, don't have to inject anything, don't have to cost like 2,000, 3,000 a month. Okay, but something sustainable, easy, you can do it in your everyday life, and at the same time, you can enjoy the benefits in your body. All right, so this is where you want to arrive at, and this is what makes Unicity different. All right, and what you have in your hands is something very valuable. Okay, so I hope you have a much deeper appreciation with what you have on your hand. All right, so this is the end of my session today. And I hope that you've learned a thing or two about metabolism today. Okay, so before we go into the next segment on this Q&A, I want to talk about this. Okay, so we are looking forward to the next GIC, which is happening very soon. It's actually just 2 weeks from now, October 11th to 12th. So this is where you're going to hear a lot of new updates and signs from Dr. Benjamin Bittman. Okay, he'll be sharing. So we're looking forward. Okay, he's our star scientist in our team. So with this, I think we're going to have some new refresher and he will teach us something new about science also. So for those who haven't signed up, we highly encourage you to make a trip to GIC. Okay. And all right, so because of GIC, we will not have any Zoom for that month, but rather we're going to have a event in Singapore. All right, so this event in Singapore will be our free real life event. So we'll do a bit of a recap of GIC and we will bring it to the physical setting. So we highly encourage those who are in Singapore to come and attend, to ask your friend to come along. So this is where we will spread first-hand information about what Dr. Benjamin has shared. So I'm sure what he has shared, the new science, will be able to benefit you or your friends. All right, so you're highly encouraged to come for this Singapore event. So, yep. So we are now open to a time of Q&A, right? So you can ask any questions if you do have them. Then you take maybe 1 or 2 questions. Yeah. Okay, so now clear start help with GLP-1. Good question. To a certain degree, I think it does. Because of live fiber. All right, live fiber have the soluble fiber as well. But of course, it doesn't ferment as how Vast Life S would, okay, because it's a very different class of fiber that they use. But that can also, in some way, bring about beneficial effects to our body, especially at the gut lining area. So I think with this, actually, live fiber, it does help, a lot with that also. So it will give a synergistic effect if you were to combine that fiber together with Vast Life S. So I do encourage, I think Clear Start would help in that area. Okay. So if you were to take this periodically every 2 or 3 times a year, if you take together with food grade, I think you will be able to help in that respect. Okay, so if there isn't any questions, it's okay. All right. I hope you have learned a thing or two about our session today and continue to be on your food grade so that you can maximize its benefit to burn even more calories for you. Okay. So with this, I just want to wish everyone good evening and see you again soon. And we will post you more updates when the time comes. All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. See you in GIC, Bangkok. Bye.